Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion. We're talking Dear Mama on FX and Hulu, episode 2, titled Changes. Tupac bursts on the scene in music and movies, but being a mainstream star and a militant activist comes at a cost. Afeni's activism lands her and her Panther comrades in a political show trial that could end with all of them in prison. Guys, I do want to let you know that this is going to be a spoiler-filled recap. I'm going to spoil this episode up, down, left, right, in, and out. As if you've already seen it, you have been warned. And if you happen to like this video, please give me a thumbs up, share the video, and also subscribe and help me reach that next milestone of 50,000 subscribers. And when I say spoilers, like, is it really? I mean, everyone has heard of Tupac before. Many people may not know that much about his mother, Afeni, who passed away in 2016. Rest in peace. But pretty much everyone knows about Tupac. And they really are getting into the nitty-gritty, guys. They really are getting into the details, even though it is impossible to go over absolutely everything in Tupac's and his mother, Afeni's life. That would be a very, very daunting task. But they are giving you all the goods, all of the necessary pieces of his story that will shine a different light on this man, because that's how I'm receiving it. And all these songs that are coming out, I Get Around, Dear Mama, and everything else, I do remember all of these as a child, but it did not hold that much significance to me. A lot of it was just through one ear and out the other. And just as the synopsis reads, Tupac bursts on the scene in music and movies, and I love that. At the very beginning of this episode, they're talking about Juice, and they're talking about Brenda had a baby. And I did not see Juice when it first came out in the early 90s. I saw that film a little later on, but I do remember seeing the trailers, seeing everybody excited and talking about it, and hearing about all the hoopla that was going on at the time. And films like this scared me. They did Menace to Society, which we'll be talking about later, Juice. I did not know what was going on. I was like, oh my God. I mean, are there really men out there that are just going around gangs and shooting people for no reason? What's going on? You know, the world is falling apart. But I was just like a little boy and did not know any better. But hearing the breakdown of Brenda's Got a Baby was really enlightening to me. I did not know at the time that it was based on a true story. Kind of had an idea, but I kind of just thought that Tupac made up a song and all the words rhyme within the rap. I did not know that it was a true story. And it was just really interesting to me how he broke down in the documentary, saying that all of the media and news outlets, this was just another story for them for coverage so they can get ratings and people to view their content, etc. But this was actually true life, real events that Tupac was going through and really did affect this community. Brenda was only 12 years old. It was an ancestral relationship that she had with her cousin. She tried to throw the baby away in the trash compactor. She also tried to kill herself, and also the baby's father, which was her cousin, tried to kill himself as well. And that's just horrible. And I like the way that he shined on this subject matter and gave it the attention that it really deserved. And that's how he came up with Changes. And I'm like, wow, this is just really resonating with me right now. And I see all of his pain and his passion and where it's coming from. It's coming from his real life. This dude is really genuine. And I've never looked at Tupac like this before. Even though before this documentary came out, I did have love for the man and he did have my respect, but now it is just kind of going up higher. I also just love the fact of how they're touching on, again, how media just takes our life and it's just a story, and they do that for clicks and views and ratings, etc. But he's just really misunderstood. Snoop Dogg touched on that at the very beginning of this episode and towards the end, of he just trying to get understanding. He wants people to be able to empathize with him and all of his pain, but they're not doing that. They just see a black man that's doing gangster rap and it is influencing violence in the community. But it's like, no, when they had him on the talk show and they had the cop up there and the white girl trying to pretend like she really cared, I'm like, oh, this is just charity. You can just make yourself feel good by donating this amount of money and pat yourself on the back, etc. But you don't know me, you don't know my neighborhood, and you don't know my community. And all they do, the media especially, is to take little snippets and clips of something and exaggerate that when that's not the case at all. They're trying to paint this man as just some evil person that just wants to go around killing innocent cops. And he never rapped about that at all. And this is really, they're being willfully dense. They were doing this in the 90s. They was doing this 100 years ago, and they're still doing this today in 2023. They don't want to look at the root cause of anything. And Tupac was trying to put that on Front Street. Like, look, I am not talking about killing cops. I'm talking about police brutality and self-defense. And that's a completely different thing. You cannot, those are on total opposites. Self-defense and police brutality does not equate to going around and killing cops, but they always try to point this narrative. And Tupac was obsessed with getting the right narrative out there. And I absolutely love that about him, and that they're shining light on this in this documentary. But it was also sad. There were some things that he was not prepared for. Juice was a big hit, a phenomenon around the country. And there were a number of violent cases, shootouts at the movie theater. And I did not know that. My parents, I guess, did a decent job from keeping that from me. But Tupac still just wanted to be in the limelight. He wanted to be in the media and get his point across and talk to the public. But that just wasn't a good idea. Like, hey, they want to talk to me. And his promoters and publicists and managers and his team was like, hey, it's not a good idea to talk to everybody. You can't talk to everybody. That's just a bad idea. But, he was young. And like the doc said, he didn't want to listen, but we all do silly things sometime when we're coming up. But again, he was not just somebody that was going to bark up a tree. He was like, hey, what are we going to do about it? These police are beating us. They're being brutal. They're taking advantage of us. I got beat on. I'm suing for $10 million. What are we going to do about it? That ties into the very intro, episode 1 of this documentary, where it was Halloween night in 1993 in Atlanta, where he shot 2 cops in the rear end. But of course, they touched on that at the very end of this episode. And I like how that kind of circled back around. Great storytelling, but I'll touch on that a little bit later. But it has to be pretty alarming to where when you're being sued by victims that died off of gun violence, saying that your music is what influenced them to do it. Your music made me kill this person and commit murder, homicide, etc. How do you swallow something like that? How do you interpret something like that as a 19, 20, 21-year-old? There has to be a lot to process, I imagine. But he wanted so many changes, and I love that about him. He was so passionate, and that's where the song came up. But he had a way about going about it. He had a very disciplined military mind that was nonviolent, and he got that from his mentors and mothers from the Black Panther Party. And I also like the way the documentary kind of transitioned back into that part of the story. It was the great year of the Panther, I believe, 1969. And I will just say this, guys, if you're watching this and you are a true fighter for justice, please, please, please study all about the Black Panther Party, the ins and outs, the outs and the ins. What made the Black Panther strong? What made them weak? How were they successful? How did they fail? COINTELPRO, study, 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 study. That is the only way that we can make it out of this mess, and it is going to take a lifetime. And just pay attention to all the lengths that they went through to thwart the Black Panther Party and all of the upbringing that they were trying to bring to the community to make things positive and better for everybody involved. That doesn't make any sense, guys. They tell us that we need to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, but then when we do pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, they try to label us as terrorists. Now, this documentary so far in episode 2, they're not able to go into every detail of the Black Panther Party. And I just know that, okay, they're leaving this out and leaving this out. And that's not a knock. I'm not throwing shade on it or anything like that, but it's just impossible to fit everything into one documentary. I just know this from other documentaries that I've watched before in the past coming up. Some are on the PBS station, some are, you can just find them online. I mean, they're everywhere, but I do like that they're highlighting different points here and there. Talking about, of course, Huey Newton, Bobby Seale, and also Fred Hampton. And they're talking about the good and the bad, what made them strong and what made them weak. Of course, if you haven't heard of Fred Hampton, you do need to look him up. But I like the way that they're highlighting everything about that in this doc. And the reason why I say study is they're telling you to study as well. Tupac is not just trying to speak to the woke or the already converted or those who are conscious. And he did have beef with them because they was a bit older and he was younger. It was one meeting, press conference, whatever, to where he was just being passionate about everything, how he felt. and they was telling him to calm down, please watch your language. He's like, no, this is just the way I talk. This is the way I express myself. Sure, there may have been a better way for him to go about it to reach a wider audience, but the man was still young, okay? And he's still learning and passionate. And I have nothing but respect for that. He wasn't trying to talk to those people. He was trying to talk to the people that weren't woke, that were not conscious, that did not know their Black American history, because we don't know in the masses. This is not taught to us in public schools when we're coming up. You know, you have to kind of learn it underground. And even if you want to do that, you're shamed about it. Tupac in this document is like, no, don't be shamed. Know your stuff, okay? Know your stuff, and I will be there for you along the way to really just help you out. And what I like also about this documentary is he knew that freedom was not going to come in his lifetime. That made sense to him. He knew that it was going to take a long time, and all he is doing is helping pave the road for future generations. He also talked about Harriet Tubman doing that, and I love that. I mean, even if you look at the 1820s, slaves back then knew that, okay, hey, we may not be able to have freedom right now, but I'm gonna still do what I have to do because I believe that future generations will be in a better place, and I want to set them up in the best position possible. Of course, there have been many mistakes along the way, and there still are mistakes right now, especially after the civil rights movement in the 60s and 70s. And to be honest, I really have never met anyone. I'm in the millennial class right now. I have not met anybody, not one person that is a boomer and that is trying to teach you about racial injustice and fighting for what's right, etc. And that's a whole completely different story. But I do like the fact that he was like, you know, hey, I know that I am not going to get freedom in my lifetime or the next. And that's the mindset that I have right now. Another reason why I'm enjoying this documentary so much is I'm in a millennial, but I'm doing this for not even my children, but for my grandchildren. By the time my grandchildren are the age that I'm at, I want to be able to look at them and look down and be like, all right, you know, I'm still fighting, but this is everything that I've done. And your daddy, your mama, okay, they're doing this too. And it's up to you, okay? You don't drop the torch, but if you do drop it, pick it up, light the fire back, and keep on going, man. We cannot give up. We cannot give up. All these people that have sacrificed themselves and have died over the years for nothing. Hell no. No, we're not. I mean, we still got Black Panthers that are locked up today. Still, we have political prisoners that are locked up today. And I want to shout out Dr. Ball with Black Power Media. He talks about that as well. Yes, Dr. Jared Ball, I know who you are, sir. I listen to you, my brother, and much respect to you. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep on the fight, because he talks about Black political prisoners. There's so many aspects to the fight. And again, going back to this documentary, they're touching on that within the Black Panther Party. I love it, I love it, I love it. But not only was Tupac doing big things in the music sphere, also the movies, we talked about Juice, but also Poetic Justice. And please, guys, do not take my black heart away, but I have not seen Poetic Justice all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces of it, and the parts that I did see, I enjoyed. I still need to sit down, take some time, and watch it all the way through to see Tupac and Miss Janet Jackson. Beautiful sister, beautiful sister. But I love the brief part that it talked about it in this film is Tupac felt in any role that he played in any film, if it was a black man dealing with pain or dealing with struggle, that was the role for him. And he wanted to take this role on. He enjoyed doing it with Janet Jackson. He couldn't believe that she even wanted to do a movie with a type of person like him. And the interviewer and the doc was like, what type of person are you? Just like, you know, a gangster rapper, you know, an artist. But he really enjoyed it. One, she was just great company. And two, because at that time, there was not that many motion pictures or cinema that showed a black man and a woman together that are in love. And that is great representation right there. I still hear people raving about the film, that it's a classic and that you need to see it. And I just need to schedule some time to sit down and watch it, but I definitely will. It is on my list. But going back to the Black Panthers and the Black Panther 21 in New York, that whole trial, how they was locked up, all of these Panthers, Afeni, Jamal, and bail was around $100,000. I like the fact that Afeni was like, look, I have a strategy. If I am a defendant, I cannot talk directly to the judge or talk directly to the jury. But if I'm defending myself, I can. I think that's freaking genius. However, her peers at the time did not feel like that was the best option. Like, hey, you know, Afeni, you can't do this because you're going to get emotional. But no, she did what she had to do to get out of there. And what I really like about this is how it shines on just how much education, specifically political education, is so important. Yeah, we want to have guns and bullets to defend ourselves. We're not just going to, I mean, if you mind your own damn business, minding your own business, remember, repeat, or minding your own business, and somebody just wants to shoot at you, shoot back. It's self-defense. You have a God-given right to defend yourself. So I'm not, talking about, oh, we shouldn't have guns or anything like that. No, everybody else has them. You can have them too. But also, you have to have that political education. Put all the guns away, but we need to get these books. We need to read. We need to get these pamphlets. And that is another way to where you can learn the system, fight it, and defeat it from inside out. And it worked. And it worked. They said that the whole trial was Black political education for everybody. And I hear grassroots organizations still talking about this today in April of 2023, guys. We got to read. That is the key right there. I mean, that is one of the reasons why the Black Panthers was so strong. Yeah, they had their weaknesses and all that, and you need to study why. I don't be asking questions, going around asking, well, why can't the Black people do this and lead ourselves and what happened? Look it up, read it, go to Google, find out this exact movement that you're talking about, hence now the Black Panthers. Find out, like I said earlier in this recap, what made them strong and what made them weak. How were they defeated? And make changes accordingly. It's right there in your face. I love this doc. I love this doc. But it takes a break there and gets more into Tupac's personal life and how charismatic he was and all the energy that he had and how he was just basically a magnet to all these women. Hence the song I Get Around. He's in a mansion shooting videos. Every time there's a break, he's taking different women upstairs and having sexual fun with them. And look, I'm not judging the man. Do what you got to do. I'm not promoting that or encouraging it, but the man did get around. And unfortunately, since he was rising in fame so much, he did not know and was ready for the amount of jealousy and hate that would be coming his way. Everybody's not going to be like, yeah, I root for you. Let's do this. We're a team, etc. Some people are mad that they're not going to be in the same position that he's in. And unfortunately, that can cause a lot of downfall. There was one concert where a little boy by the name of Quaid was shot, and the blame was put on him, and he just showed how that really changed him. What impressed me while watching this is the footage that was used. It was like they knew that another documentary was going to be made 20, 30 years in the future, and they was preparing for it in real time back then. It's crazy how that came across, but that's the way I interpreted things. But then with the interviews, breaking everything down, the editing, the music, the video footage, all of that, how it's come together, it is really painting a bright, vivid picture, and I'm soaking all of it in. And guys, you can hear brother Nelly Fuller talking about this today and a number of other grassroots people about how we needed to stay on code. And Tupac had that same mindset. He said it started with 50 niggas, and I've never heard of this before. And then that went into thug life and how they had a thug life code. Man, all of this when you're 20 years old, 21 years old, this is amazing. That just showed how much passion he had for his community. And the little boy Quaid and how he was murdered and being blamed for it, he wanted to put an end to it. I can do nothing but respect it. I mean, seriously, I can do nothing but respect it. And with all of this mayhem going on, talked about, Mike Tyson getting locked up and he went to go see them, just some of the relationships that he was creating with other people, how the government did not want those to flourish and was doing everything to thwart that. Now, they kind of just threw this brother's name in there out of nowhere, Matulu, and how that was somewhat of a mentor to Tupac as well, and how he linked them up with Watani, and they helped with the code as well. They could have brushed on that just kind of like a little bit more, like, okay, like where did this guy come from? Just like out of nowhere, but that's just kind of like a small nitpick. But I liked all that too. I liked that Tupac was just trying to bridge gaps. I mean, he was a true activist. He was, a true leader, or wanted to be, or tried his best to be. And again, I can do nothing but respect that. All coming from his Black Panther mentorship and his mother, Afeni. I mean, think about it. You're 20, 21 years old, and you have prison leaders that have been locked up for years and decades. They want you to be the leader, and these are like grown-ass men, 30s, 40s, 50 years old. Man, that's a lot to take in right there. Tupac was just trying to wear too many hats and was being stretched too thin, unfortunately. But the government did get us with the eternal beef. Like they said, in the Black Panthers, whatever your enemy is, one way to defeat them is to have them fighting on multiple fronts and to get them stressed apart. Just going back talking about the Panthers, they was raising money, but it was just internal beef because they didn't feel like some of the old school Panthers and new school were using the money and resources the right way. There was beef between the national leaders and the local leaders. People in prison didn't think that they were getting people out of prison fast enough. And this was all during the government, COINTELPRO, and internal beef and all of that. I mean, some of it was self-inflicted, but it was also from outside sources. One way you can combat that is a code of conduct. No matter what, like, okay, I'm going to do this way and do this way, because if I don't, it could hurt us, in the grand scheme of things. That's where a code of conduct comes into play. Now, I also like the fact that director Allen Hughes got from behind the camera and got in front of it. He talked about his beef that he had with Tupac way back in the day, and I did not know that. Allen Hughes, if you look at his filmography, he is the director for Amidst to Society, and he did hire Tupac to be a part of that film. But he was fired because of conduct on the set, and Tupac didn't agree with the way the film was being told about his particular character, and they had a fallout on set. Apparently Tupac swung on the man, and there was some charges for that, unfortunately. So they had a fallout, but they're good now. But if you look how Allen Hughes addressed the beatdown from Tupac, Amidst to Society director explains why Tupac Shakur was, this was back in 2013 when that article came out, 2022. And so a lot of people know this. And so if you want to research that and look it up, you can. But just towards the end of the episode, it talked about how things just wasn't working out for Tupac, and he moved to Atlanta with his auntie Glow and his mother Afeni. And he had money. He had money from his music, his movies, branding, etc. And, he bought a house, for his mother in Atlanta, Georgia. And how they had guns and, would just go out to the range and do target practice. And it was nice to see his mother and auntie living a fruitful life and being happy, something that they've never had before. I liked all that. It was nice that he was able to take care of his mother that way. I mean, every son, every daughter wants to take care of their parents if they can. They work really hard and sacrifice. He knew all the crap that his mother went through. She was addicted to crack at some time, had to go to rehab, was a Panther, learned so much from his mother. That was his rock. So, of course, he wants to take care of her. And I know that he felt good that he was able to and that she was really proud of him. But I love the part at the Indian Black Expo at the end. And I believe it was one of his cousins just talking about, of course, how Tupac was brought up and how he had that fire that was breathing inside of him. And the way that they edited this scene with him speaking at that expo, but they have fire in the background, like he was in flames, just furious and enraged. I liked all that. I mean, this brother was passionate and he cared. And like I said at the very beginning of this recap, he just wasn't about that talkie. He wanted to do something about everything. And that's when he defended that black man from those cops and ended up getting away with it for self-defense. I love that about him. Now, I'm not saying that people need to just go out and shoot cops. No. There's multiple ways you can fight for justice and not be nonviolent. But, hey, get you a gun for self-defense. Everybody else has one. There's nothing wrong with it. And I also love the fact towards the end, how he played the Dear Mama song to his mother for the first time, and how she cried and, was showing emotion and how much that meant to her, because she knew how much she fought for him and struggled and fought for everybody and black people. And for her to hear something like that, I mean, it can only bring tears to your eyes. I really did like that. I did. And also, guys, I stand corrected. In my last recap, I wasn't sure on who the voice for Afeni was. It is actually her, just from footage from many, many years ago that they incorporated in this documentary and are just putting together. It's just such a great, wonderful project, and I loved it. So, but guys, that is my recap of episode 2 of Dear Mama, titled Changes. I really had fun watching this and also had a ton of fun breaking it down with you guys. I will also have episode 3 ready for you as soon as it premieres. After that first hour, I will have the video uploaded to my YouTube channel. So as soon as it premieres on FX, as soon as it's over, my video will be premiering for you. So you can watch the episode and then watch my recap right afterwards. It's called So Many Tears. Tupac's legal troubles escalate with multiple different arrests in different states, culminating in his being charged with sexual assault in New York. Afeni is the voice of New York Panther 21, defending herself at trial and shocking the world when the verdict comes down. Tupac's criminal trial comes to a different end, directed by Allen Hughes, and that episode is only 50 minutes. But hey, my recap will be ready for you guys 1 hour after it premieres. And make sure you subscribe so you can get that content. Leave a thumbs up, share the video, all that good stuff. But guys, again, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Please subscribe to my channel. Like I've said, if you do subscribe, you're going to get movie reviews, spoiler movie reviews, series reviews, a weekly movie news roundup show. Snowfall season 6 just wrapped, but I'm still talking. Power Book 2 Go season 3, Bel Air, trailer reactions, and some interviews as well. But guys, again, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that my name is Brandon Keith Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.